Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to the front lines. This is Death Watch here to give you guys more intel so you can update your personal armory and fight back against the fake news media machine. And today we're going to be discussing Sound of Freedom. I saw that movie 2 days ago. I'll agree with the tomato meter. 74, 75-ish% is what I would rate the movie. Being more generous, I'll probably give it around 80%. Okay. 100% audience score. That's cool with me. If other people felt that this movie was 100%, good on them. Maybe because I'm more of a zoomer, right? The only movies I can think of that can be in a comparison to this is Rambo Last Blood, which Rambo Last Blood, um, it's the same plot. Young girl gets kidnapped by a bunch of she goes, partying in Mexico, gets kidnapped by a bunch of sex traffickers, and Rambo has to then go in there and save her, right? Sicario is another movie that focuses on like border security and things like that. It's not as guns blazing, right? That's the only issue, right? Again, maybe because I'm a zoomer, I'm more used to that high intense action sequences, right? This movie is more straight to the point, right? But first, we're going to look at this clip from CBS Evening News. This came out 8 years ago, essentially breaking down what this whole movie is about.
Last weekend, police broke up a major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, which has become a destination for tourists looking for sex with boys and girls. The police had help from an American who went undercover to rescue the children, and Elaine Quijano met him.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago, Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent, now heads up Operation Underground Railroad, a nonprofit group that rescues trafficked kids. After that first meeting, the Colombians asked him to put together a sting.
No men will be in here, only women.
Operation Underground Railroad spent months planning, renting this house, rigging it with hidden cameras to document the crime, coordinating with Colombian authorities, and negotiating with the traffickers.
How they find these kids is they lure them in by pretending to have a modeling agency. They target them at 9 or 10 years old. And they were telling us that about by 11, they're ready for sex. They're ready to be sold.
What is that like, looking into that kind of person's eyes?
It's horrifying, and this is why. Because I've got...
So I will stop the video there. You guys can finish watching it all on CBS Evening News. Again, credits to them. But, this is the guy. This is Tim Ballard. He was part of a sting operation with the Colombian government to essentially conduct a raid on a bunch of child sex traffickers, right? These individuals were, like he said, pretending to be, fashion organization, agents who are, here to, audition children for fashion design, or whatever, fashion magazines, movies, actors, right? Whatever, right? And then they would kidnap these people's children and then sell them into, human traffic them to people who are there to do whatever they want to these children, right? And so for these leftists to then come out and be like, oh, this is nothing more than a QAnon conspiracy theory. It's like, this is an actual event. Again, CBS Evening News had the full interview with this guy, right? Worked for the Department of Homeland Security, was an agent, found, ran into this problem, decided to do something good about it, right? Do something about this issue, right? Actually conducted a full-on raid on this island, arrested several people, saved, I think it was up to 54 children, right? And for the leftists to come out and say, oh, well, this is just a QAnon conspiracy, as, Rolling Stone comes out. Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms, right? The QAnon teen thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy adult boomer. How is this a conspiracy when, again, this was a real event? The movie is not focused on Jim Caviezel, right? The movie is not focused on Tim Ballard, okay? It was completely focused on this raid that he conducted with the Colombian government and saved these children. Right now, they have their own little spin and twist on it, right? Because the story continues after they reenact this raid, right? Definitely go check it out. I'm not gonna spoil it here, but for them to come out and say this is all a conspiracy, this is meant to, essentially a dog whistle for conspiracy theorists who, QAnon, right? Yeah, they believe in crazy things, but they all agree with the premise that child trafficking is disgusting. We need to put an end to it, right? That there are people out there who are engaging in this type of activity, right? CBS Evening News said that, yeah, Colombia has become a destination for people who want to do these things to children to go to. The Colombian government even recognized that, and that's why they worked with Tim Ballard, right, to conduct this sting operation to catch these people. Okay, so to say that, QAnon are a bunch of weirdo conspiracy theorists for believing that this is a issue that's going on, it's 100% is an issue that's going on, right? The only people who would detract from this are people who, in some cases, are probably the ones who are going to Colombia, who are engaging in this type of activity. Okay, that's the only rationale that I can come to. Okay, Forbes magazine comes out, says, controversial hit. Sound of Freedom crosses $50 million at the U.S. box office. It completely dwarfed Indiana Jones, right? Lucasfilm backed several $1 million backing to advertise it. But yet, this small indie film from Angel Studios was able to completely destroy them in the box office when they first came out, right? And so you need to go and watch this movie because, if you're tired of Hollywood and all their crazy, weirdo nonsense that's been going on, all their movies that they're releasing that has nothing to do with anything, it's just a bunch of stupid nonsense millennial writing, right? Definitely go and watch this movie because Angel Studios needs this money. A lot of indie developers need this money, right? We have right now the Hollywood movie strikes, right? Actors are striking, writers are striking, right? But the thing is, none of these people want to actually go out and make their own studios and actually talk about things that people actually care about, movies that actually show, like I talked in my previous video, talking about how Hollywood is actively trying to destroy traditional masculine characters, right? This is a story about a traditional masculine story, right? A guy who was a federal agent saw an issue and took it upon himself to try to fix it, right? And it worked and it was successful. And he started a whole organization over it, right? But the movie doesn't focus on any of that, right? Jim Caviezel at the end of the movie openly says, hey, this is not about me. This is not about Tim Ballard. This is about the issue, right? That children are being human trafficked around the world and in America, and we need to do something about it, right? That this movie is simply just to be kind of the alarm, right? Saying, hey, we should be aware of this issue, right? That was what the movie was about. So again, for these leftists to come out and say, oh, well, this is all a conspiracy theory, right? Meant for dads who believe in nothing more than QAnon craziness, right? And the real issue that these people really have with Jim Caviezel and Tim Ballard is that they are conservatives. These two are conservatives. They are devout Christians. And that's really what it boils down to. Tim Ballard in 2019 worked with Donald Trump, right, to advise him on the human trafficking on border security, right? Of course, they hate that part. They want open borders, right? All these leftists, right? Vice Media comes out saying that, oh, this guy is full of crap, right? His operation, Underground Railroad, which is his organization that Tim Ballard created after this whole first situation, right? Oh, it's a bunch of nonsense. There's no proof that he has done a lot of these other things that his organization claims to have done, right? But yet, Vice Media, filed for bankruptcy, right? Used to be worth $5.7 billion, files for bankruptcy, and their own executive producers sold them out, right? They gave themselves $11 million before the company was filed for bankruptcy. So, Vice Media, how do you focus on your own organization, how corrupt you guys are, instead of trying to, gaslight and poison the well about what actual people who are trying to do good in the world. Okay? But overall, the movie was fantastic. I think towards the end of the film, they showed you actual body cam footage of the Colombian government, their raid, coming in, arresting everybody. the actors looked exactly like the people in real life that were arrested, right? So good on the I guess the actors, the people, the producers who picked those actors, the director. Good on, you know, the sound design was good, cinematography was good. The overall story was pretty good. The only issue, the only gripe that I had with the movie, and is probably again because I'm a zoomer, I didn't really care about it being all action packed, right? It wasn't a spec ops super coordinated Mission Impossible style movie, not like Rambo, not like Sicario. It was very straight to the point, right? And that was kind of the issue where at the beginning of the film there was scenes that were very short on dialogue, and only served to simply be quick segues so that they can get into the overall plot. Tim Baylor being in Colombia and working with the Colombian government to try to organize this, right? In the clip, they said it took 11 months, right? It took, well, not 11 months, it took several months to set this all up. They had to, they had to track down where these people were, selling the kids. They had to figure out who all these people were who were in charge of selling the children. They had to try to get their trust to come out to this island in order for them to, get arrested, right? So what took them 11 months of preparation and gaining trust in order to get them to this island, right? You had to tell that story in literally like 2 hours, 11 minutes, right? So of course they skipped, they kind of just rushed certain scenes. Again, scenes were very short. Some scenes had little dialogue that only served to be like quick segues so they can get into the overall plot, right? Which the overall plot is still good based on a true story, but they have their own little personal story to tell, right? And which was really good overall, right? The thing is, again, I'll give it more like a gracious, 75%. If I'm being like very critical of it, if I'm being more gracious, I'll give it an 80%. Still a pretty good movie, right? Doesn't have to be all action packed. It was just very quick to the point. I felt like certain scenes could have just been drawn out a little bit more. Characters could have been drawn out a little bit more. Some of the dialogue choices should have been more grounded, right? More grounded. But again, overall, what the whole issue that they were just trying to do is simply say, hey, this is something that happened in real life and we need to be aware of it, because this, them arresting, a handful of people and saving 54 children, this is happening in different parts of the world, right? They didn't single out any one country. They didn't single out any individuals, right? They didn't say, oh, well, it's the, people, the people that they arrested were working with the Democrats, right? They didn't do anything like that. They didn't say, oh, these people are working with the Colombian, or secretly working with the Colombian government. This government is corrupt and is secretly hosting these type of events. It was none of that. It was straight to the point that, hey, these are independent individuals who were going around doing this crap, right? And there's plenty more rings, plenty more human traffickers, right? Plenty more people who are clienteles who are trying to access these type of markets, and we just need to be aware of it, right? So again, for them to come out, leftists to come out and say this is nothing more than a conspiracy, it's the only thing I can say is that, well, the reason why you think it's a conspiracy is because one, you didn't actually watch the movie. You don't know who Tim Baylor is. You don't know anything about the whole situation that this movie is reenacting, right? You just simply know that Jim Caviezel, Tim Baylor are right-wing Republicans, right? Devout Christians, and you hate them for it, right? They work with Tim Baylor, work with Donald Trump. You hate Donald Trump. You think everybody who's a Republican are evil white supremes, okay? And so you just want to poison the well, right? That's the only thing I can think of, that either it's one of those things, or you people who are detractors are actively engaging in these type of activities and they don't want the awareness to get out, right? But overall, good movie. Go check it out, because again, Angel Studios really needs the money. Okay? If you are tired of Hollywood and all their nonsense, bogus movies that just want to attack men, show women strong and that women can do no wrong, right? Or just complete nonsense movies that have absolutely no plot whatsoever, they're literally just tossing away millions of dollars just to toss something on screen, and then people just shut up, consume product, then get excited for next product, right? If you're tired of all that crap, go and watch this movie so that Angel Studios can then profit from it, and they can then make bigger and better movies in the future, right? Because it has to start somewhere, right? They have to start somewhere. They have to have the money, right? That's why it wasn't as action packed as Rambo or Sicario, Hollywood movies that actually had, millions of dollars in spending, a bunch of money to do all the crazy gunfights, explosions, and all this other crap, makeup design, whatever, right? They didn't have this big of a budget, right? So they had to simply say, we're going to focus on this story, right? We're going to focus on these two stories, and we're going to try to dump as much money as we can into the actual main plot points in this movie, right? And so if you want to support more indie films so that they can make bigger and better movies, definitely check out Sound of Freedom. Check out this movie, because I say personally it was a good movie, right? It definitely was a good indie film. Okay? And so, like always, stay safe, stay sane, be vigilant, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you Patriots on the battlefield.